Yo, it's cracking Facebook. It's been a minute here. We've been busy, buried in the podcast launch lab. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. But yeah, it's been a couple weeks. I like to say it's a couple weeks. Hopefully not a couple months since our last episode here. Consistency is key with these podcasts, I tell you. But we just moved over to a brand new platform that's called Spreaker. So I'm really excited about that because it allows us to actually broadcast the show live. So people will be able to call into the show, etc. We haven't got that far yet. I haven't moved to the interview model as of yet, but we will very, very soon. So as usual, I want to jump on Facebook real quick before we go live. I've included a link there in the description. So in the event you don't want to watch the Facebook live video, because I'm not going to be interacting with you guys throughout the show, just because I can't focus that hard. I wish that I could. But yeah, finally found a very quiet space here at Business Miami to get the show recorded. It's a busy place around here. It gets a little noisy, which I'm okay with background noise while recording the show, but I'm also okay with a very quiet, studio-esque, if you will, environment. This week, I'm going to be talking about Facebook groups. Last week, the Facebook hosted their first ever Facebook Community Summit in Chicago, and Mark Zuckerberg announced a brand new vision for the company, which is to bring the world closer together, and that's going to be done through Facebook's group communities. So I want to chat a little bit about what took place in Chicago last week and help you really understand the power of groups, why you need to be using Facebook groups, how they apply to your business, your brand, your life, why do they exist, etc., etc. So we're going to get right down to it. It's the first time using the Spreaker platform, so if there's going to be any errors, I'm well aware that may happen. But let's get down to it. All right, here we go. What's up, Facebook? Thanks for tuning in. Frank, Kimmy, the other three of you that are in here, I appreciate you. So the show's going to be quick and easy. I've only got a few things to chat about pertaining to Facebook groups. So again, that's the goal of the show. 20 minutes, 25 minutes max. I think that keeps everybody's interest. All right, here we go. If I don't get back to you answering questions here, Facebook, you know why. You may be watching this archive on YouTube. That's definitely a possibility. All right, let me make sure I've got everything shut off here. All right, we're ready to roll. You're probably wondering what I'm doing. I'm recording my podcast, and Facebook Live gets a little peek behind the curtain, so that's the reason for this whole setup right here that you see in front of me. All right, here we go. Mic check works. All right, we're dialed in. Very important, get that voice cleared up a little bit. Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. What's happening? Chris Patel, what's up, dude? Got some man peeps in the house. Yo, yo, yo. Hey, oh no, I'll make all the rest of those announcements on the show. Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you guys don't mind, you like what you're hearing here, I'm going to dive right in. What up, CP? C to the P. If you like what you're hearing here, I'm going to cover Facebook groups today. That's what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to be talking about what went down in Chicago last week at the first ever Facebook Community Summit, where Facebook decided to invite a bunch of Facebook group admins to announce what their new vision is and what that's going to look like pertaining to them executing that vision through the Facebook groups community. So if you know somebody that's interested in Facebook groups, if you think that they should be interested in Facebook groups, you're obviously interested in Facebook groups because you tuned in. Do me a favor and just hit that share button. It'll put this broadcast right in the middle of your newsfeed. So that's how we do it over here. So I'm asking for a little, as my buddy Gary Vee would say, that's my right hook. Will you share it? Anyhow, the link is also in here to listen live. If you're leaving, you want to listen to it on your smartphone, you can download the Spreaker app too. That's like speaker, but with an R. Spreaker allows us to broadcast the show live. We're going to have upcoming guests. What up, what up, what up? Owen to the Hemsav. We're going to be having guests on the show, so they're going to be able to call in, just like a live radio show. So I love the Spreaker platform. I saw it a few years back. I'm not sure what rock I was living under. They sent me a stellar deal, and I realized I can connect Skype and have inbound callers and all kinds of sound clips, and the show automatically goes to SoundCloud, where the show has always lived, which automatically takes it into the iTunes store, which is always a plus. So stick around. I got a couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 things to share with you pertaining to Facebook groups. Hey, if you're just tuning in, this is the Seb Rush Show, recording of the podcast. We're talking about Facebook groups. That's why Facebook Live is right here. We haven't started recording the show yet. It's still all about you, Facebook. So I like this interaction that I get before the show. Thanks, Frank. I appreciate you, bro. Go ahead and hit share. That includes you, Owen. It allows me to engage with my Facebook audience and also kind of answer some questions. If I had some after the show or before the show, I can go back in, interact with you guys because of this archive. So if you're recording a podcast or you want to start a podcast, the podcastlaunchlive.com can help. Just thought I'd throw that in there because it's my show. But if you are recording a podcast, you need to be Facebook living the recording of it because that gives you the video element to be able to run ads on video on Facebook after, put the archive on YouTube, write a blog post, let people see what you look like. I've got an incredible face for radio, so that's the reason that I like to Facebook Live here. So, all right, let's get this party started. Yes, that's vodka on a Tuesday morning. Don't judge my journey. I'm really kidding. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, that's me. Thanks for that warm, all right, hold the applause. Thanks for that warm welcome. Ian intro, always making me feel awesome here. Hey, my name's Sebastian Rusk. Whoa, things are going crazy around here, I tell you. My name's Sebastian Rusk, and this is the Seb Rush Show podcast. Hey, we're talking about social media. We're talking about tips, tricks, tools, and ideas to help you step up your digital marketing game. We got some friends joining us on Facebook, as we always do. We Facebook Live this to give our Facebook community a little peek behind the curtain. We're on this brand new platform called Spreaker, and it is fantastic because this show is live. So if you're watching via Facebook right now and you really want the full experience of being able to hear what's taking place, and we've got all kinds of sound clips and whatnot, you're not going to be able to hear that on the Facebook Live, so you may want to click the link to actually listen to the show. That link, hey, maybe you're listening to the archive, you want to hear it there too, is socialbuzzonair.com. There's a player right there on our homepage. You'll see the episode playing. It'll say episode 25 of the Seb Rush Show, and it'll say live. Just hit play, and after you hit play, go ahead and share away. So Spreaker platform is very, very sharing friendly, social friendly. That is exactly the words I was looking for. So my goodness, it's been a couple weeks since we did our last episode. When you're doing a podcast that is still a passion project, that also means you have not monetized the show yet. That would be us. We're well on our way, though, as our community continues to grow. It's a passion project, and part of passion projects mean discipline. And discipline means you need to stop, schedule, commit, and record each and every week. But then again, you know, this little thing called life gets in the way, and we've been in the middle of a huge launch over the past 60 days with the amazing Podcast Launch Lab. Things have been going extremely well. We've got six shows we're working on right now. The goal was 10, so we're well on our way. We're really excited. The first show we ever did is actually live, and the other 5 shows are in the works right now. We are diligently working away the Podcast Launch Lab to get those podcast show brands launched, the shows recorded, make them sound awesome, get them into the iTunes store, etc., etc. So if this is your first time tuning in, hey, maybe you're watching an archive video on YouTube, or maybe you just subscribe to us on iTunes or the Google Play Store. And speaking of subscribing, if you haven't done that already, you're listening to the show right now, most likely in the iTunes Store. All you need to simply do is make sure you're subscribing to the Seb Rusk Show on Social Buzz On Air. Download a few of our episodes, all of our episodes, and leave us a review. What this does is tell iTunes that you think we're cool, and sometimes they make us cool by featuring our podcast. And that only happens with the help of friends just like you. So today we're going to be diving into what Facebook's new vision is now that Zuck announced it last week in Chicago. First ever Facebook Community Summit went down in Chicago last week. And what this was comprised of is Facebook, always being creative with engaging their community, invited a bunch of Facebook group admins to come hear about the brand new vision for Facebook. So I want to dive a little bit into what that announcement looked like. Facebook essentially, Mark Zuckerberg essentially said, listen, we've got a brand new vision, because I said we've got a brand new vision. And it's really simple. It's to bring the world closer together. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, they've already done a darn good job of it thus far, but they're really going to take the Facebook groups community to the next level, I tell you. The next level. So that's what we're going to be diving into. Thanks so much for tuning in. Without you guys, hey, this show doesn't happen. We have people that join us on our Facebook Live stream, and we have people that download the show, listen to it later. But, you know, that's the reality with where we're at with this content. And I talk to every brand, and I say the same thing when we're getting ready to launch their podcast. Number one, I want to find out why they want to launch a podcast. But number two, the reason that podcasts are receiving such a phenomenal success with them being a 12-year-old technology. 12 years ago, podcasts were launched. They're just now becoming popular. The reason for that is because we are living in a convenience, binge-worthy world. And what do I mean by that? Well, we want to consume content when we want to consume content. It is just that simple. We don't want to watch commercials. We don't want to wait. I mean, when's the last time you watched a television commercial? I mean, every now and then I space out and catch myself watching DVR recorded commercials. I'm like, hello, get back to 2017, Sebastian. But we want to be able to consume content the way that we want to consume content when we want to consume it. That's what podcasts allow us to do. Little fun fact, when we launch a brand new show, the iTunes Store requires you to have a minimum of 3 episodes in order to get into the iTunes Store. So part of the launch, number one. Number two, you want to launch more than 1 episode when the initial launch, the initial rollout happens, because of the fact that, well, number one, iTunes won't let you in unless you have 3 episodes. And number two, you can't have just your first episode. It has to be your first. Because we're living in this binge convenience world, it's kind of anticlimactic to be able to launch the show, all the buzz and excitement around it, and there's only 1 episode. So give people what they want. Give the people what they want, will you? And giving them what they want is allowing them to, little do they know you need the 3 episodes, but it's also giving you the first 3 episodes of your podcast so they can listen to them back to back to back and be just that much more excited for that 4th episode to drop, which essentially would be your second launch or your second week, if you will. Again, another podcast for another time. If you've been thinking about launching a podcast for your brand, the time is, let's see, I just checked. It's now. So hit me up. More information at the podcast, launchlab.com. Type in your email address, and that'll take you right to a quick training that I did that's about 20 minutes long. Gives you the 9 steps on how to launch a podcast. Everything I know. I opened Pandora's box up. So go in there, go nuts, and execute. If you don't have time to execute, well, then that means the Podcast Launch Lab may be a fit for you. We've got a little bit of a screening process. We got to make sure that you're down with the discount pertaining to being a fit within the Podcast Launch Lab. If I can't get excited about your brand or your product sucks, well, then a podcast is not going to fix that. So I don't know if you guys knew or not, but Jack Nicholson's a big fan of the show, and I always tell him, you say, Jack, you know, you need a social media strategy, even though you're a seasoned vet. You know what he tells me? All right. I live by a bunch of Cubans too, Jack. Take it easy, buddy. Take it easy. So, hey, if you're just tuning in, this is the Seb Rusk Show on Social Buzz On Air. I'm your host, Sebastian Rusk. We do this each and every week. Insert sarcasm here. Most of the weeks we do here. The goal is to put out a brand new episode each and every week. We've taken on some new technology and moved our show to a live format. So this show is actually broadcast live. We're going to have some exciting guests on in the coming weeks. I know we had I was really excited to have Marie Forleo on a couple weeks back, but she fell ill. Unfortunately, we had to reschedule. So I've got Marie rescheduled back on the show for Wednesday, July 19th. So mark your calendars for that. It will be a live show. She's going to call in. We're going to have a good time and chat about how about the empire of B School and her awesome brand that she's built. So if you haven't heard of Marie, make sure that you check her out. All right, let's get into what happened last week in Chicago for the Facebook Community Summit, the first ever Facebook Community Summit. Mark Zuckerberg announced a brand new vision at this Facebook Community Summit in Chicago. This was an event that Facebook hosted for Facebook group admins so that they could understand exactly what the new vision was all about, because part of that new vision was happening through the ever-growing Facebook groups platform. Now, I'm not sure if you're involved in a Facebook group or not, but in the event that you're not, you need to be. Number one, so first of all, let's just talk about what a group is on Facebook. Just in case you don't know, let's just back it up real quick. It's either a public group, it's either a closed group, or if you're super duper shady, it's a private group, right? No, I'm just kidding. You can't find it unless you have the link. No, so those are three types of groups that are available on Facebook. Now, couple different reasons you would need a group. Now, for the Podcast Launch Lab, well, people make an investment to launch a podcast strategy with us. Once we've launched their podcast, we have an ongoing monthly lab membership that includes the editing of their episodes. It includes access to a private Facebook group. Now, why is this of a benefit? Am I plugging the Podcast Launch Lab in addition to talking about Facebook's announcement? Absolutely, but it all ties in, and it's my show, darn it. So the reason that people want to be part of a private Facebook group, especially when they're part of a program like the Podcast Launch Lab, is what we've found is there's a lot of like-minded individuals for the brands that we are launching podcast shows for. And I think that's extremely powerful, especially this day and age. Why? Because, hey, if I launch a podcast and you launch a podcast, hey, I'm a marketer, you're a marketer, I'm an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur. What does that look like for us to continue a conversation and engage with each other on an ongoing basis? Oh, and on top of that, we've got Sebastian and the Podcast Launch Lab team offering content and Q&As and training on a monthly basis through that Facebook community. Is essentially what's taking place there. So as the Podcast Launch Lab continues to grow and our show base and our podcast base continues to grow with the shows that we've launched, that community is going to continue to grow. And I really envision that community growing into something really powerful, so much more than just a podcast show being launched. I think some extremely neat things will take place, like networking and masterminding and idea swapping and business being done and et cetera, et cetera. So again, crazy ideas that become a reality. That is the Podcast Launch Lab, but that's what we're doing with Facebook groups for the Podcast Launch Lab. Now, I'm part of the South Florida Social Media Club, have been for the past 6 or 7 years. It's just a group of about 5,000 people here in South Florida, some are not, of like-minded individuals, usually with a common denominator of social media. Duh. So that's a closed group. It's not a private group, but you do need to be accepted in the group because we don't want to let just anybody in. We want to make sure you're a fit within the community. Now, if I have a question about social media that I may not be able to answer, yes, that does happen. If I get thrown a curveball, I can always go to that group as a reference point. I can always go there and ask for help. I can always go there and know that the content that I'm receiving within the South Florida Social Media Club is probably pretty sound advice that I can bring back to my client, community, prospect, and get a question answered. So as a resource we're all part of communities, we're all part of groups as being a human being, as life in general. This is just the digital version of that, and Facebook really clearly understands. Again, the original goal of launching Facebook way back when in Zuck's dorm room was that people want to share their lives with each other. And because of that, Facebook is now a reality. That's just the nuts and bolts of it. So Zuck spoke last week at the first ever Facebook Community Summit in Chicago. That included hundreds of Facebook group admins, very targeted. Let's invite the people that are actually utilizing our platform. And Zuckerberg said the company's goal moving forward will be to simply bring the world closer together. So he's already brought the world together. He's already working on bringing internet to the entire planet. But he believes that the Facebook groups aspect of Facebook is really going to help that process. Zuck also continued to say, communities give us that sense that we are part of something greater than ourselves, that we are not alone, and that we have something better ahead to work for. That this is our challenge, and we have to build a world where every single person has a sense of purpose and community. That's how we'll bring the world closer together. Facebook said to achieve this, they've announced several additions coming to groups. First is Group Insights. This will allow admins to be able to see real-time metrics, giving information on growth, engagement, membership, such as number of posts from members, which posts receive the most attention. This is huge, okay? Hold the phone for just a second. If you have a Facebook group that's part of your brand, just like the Podcast Launch Lab private group, full of podcast launch labbers, branders, marketers, entrepreneurs, people that are part of our community, and I can find out which content they've shared and which content is the most engaging, then we're able to really set the platform and create a content strategy for the Podcast Launch Lab private group, not just talking about anything and everything, but really keeping it targeted by knowing what people want to read, want to consume, etc. Group Insights, that's going to be huge. So if you have a brand, you need to have a Facebook group. Create something. If you're a dentist, why do I need a Facebook group? Well, you're a dentist and you want to call it Dental Tips 101 for Miami Dental Group, right? Well, if I go to Miami Dental Group and I get all of my dental work done there and I love the place and they're great, hey, maybe other people think the same thing and I want to be part of that group. Why? Because the dentist and his team, they provide funny content, they provide useful content, they provide content that just helps my overall dental hygiene in general, and I love being part of the Facebook Miami Dental Group. I'm using an example of another business outside of the digital space. Let's use another example. I own a law firm, Sebastian. Why would I need a Facebook group? Well, that's quite simple. You can put together a Facebook law community group. Maybe it's a community of other attorneys. Last time I checked, attorneys are very, very good at sending business to other attorneys. So set up a Facebook group, invite your other attorney friends, lawyer friends, same thing, to the Facebook group and be able to begin to build a community. Well, what if I want to do it on behalf of my law firm? Well, that may be a little tricky on behalf of your law firm to have your clients and other clients networking and engaging with each other. Again, there's a fine line there. You hire an attorney usually for some proprietary information that's not usually public to go, hey, I just got sued and I'm so glad to be part of this group. Has anyone else gotten sued? Let's trade some more stories on that. So I don't know what that would look like, but again, I'm trying to just paint a picture for you and shift your mindset a little bit about why Facebook groups are even relevant for your brand. They're relevant for families, high school groups. I just had my 20-year high school reunion on Saturday night, and the lifeblood of the planning and staying in touch and reconnecting and the whole precursor and the excitement leading up to the reunion was our private Facebook group. We had about 450 people in that group, and we had about 115 people out of 787 graduating show up at the reunion. But there are still conversations going on in that group, and it's 3 days later, and I assume that will continue to be the class of 97's go-to communication tool to be able to get the word out. We talked about doing another reunion in 5 years instead of 10. Everyone was that excited, had that great of a time. Everyone's posting pictures from the evening, reconnecting with people. It's just an awesome experience, and that's on a personal side of things. That has nothing to do with business, except that I'm connecting with a lot of people that I went to high school with that now want to have conversations about launching a podcast or about social media. So sometimes those personal private groups lead to opportunities, because that's what happens. When conversations happen, problems are revealed and solutions are also revealed simultaneously at the same time. Facebook also announced that group-to-group linking would be happening. This is huge. You can link one group to another group if they're associated with each other. This feature is being tested in the new update that they're going to be rolling out. Allows admins to recommend similar or related groups to their members. Very, very cool. So if you're in the South Florida Social Media Club and one of the admins thinks there's another club that may be relevant for you, he can recommend that, and they can link groups to groups. So Facebook is just basically connecting all the dots here that are already there. Another feature is going to be membership request filtering. Admins can sort and filter membership requests based on common categories like gender and location, allowing them to accept or decline all at once. So it's going to be a lot easier to get in there and say, hey, you are allowed in the club, you're not allowed in the club, you're allowed in the group, you're not allowed in the group. Right now, it's just a approval process of approved or declined. Another feature is they'll be removing, they've removed member cleanup. Admins can now remove both people and the content they've created within the group, including posts and comments. That's huge, because you got some clowns like to come in there and, run amok, completely just off topic of their content, and then they're kicked out of the group and their content's still there. This new feature will allow them to not only kick the clown out of the group, but also delete all their posts and comments, so things can return to a normal, or we now return to our normally scheduled program. Scheduled posts within groups. This is huge as well, because you can schedule the content that's going to be shared within your private group. If it's for your business, this is even better. I love it for the Podcast Launch Lab. I'm really excited about it, because my team can now plan out content that we've got for the next 30 days for that Podcast Launch Lab private Facebook group. So all I'm doing is jumping in and filling in the gaps and doing live stuff and impromptu trainings, etc., etc. Facebook says there are more than 1 billion people around the world who use groups. 1 billion people. While this Chicago Summit was the first of its kind for Facebook, the company says it plans to hold similar group-based events outside of the U.S. in the future to continue to evangelize and talk about what's taking place within Facebook groups. I looked up an article for this announcement here, and it was located on bubblesyrup.com. You'll be able to find that link in the show notes. I'm going to include that if you want to reference that back there and talk about it. Hey, maybe you want to do a podcast episode about the new vision of Facebook. Please feel free to utilize as much content as you like. But as usual, Facebook is rocking and rolling, making our life easier. And for that, I think that that's right. Now, big round of applause. Absolutely. So, Jack, are you going to be using Facebook groups? He always says this. Oh, Jack, can you just join the group already? I really appreciate him joining the show. I really do. So that about wraps it up pertaining to Facebook groups. This show's about 20 to 25 minutes. Sometimes I get on a good one and I start chatting away, but I don't want to just babble on and on. I want it to be relevant content that you're consuming, that you like, and it's consumable. It's not like I'll listen to the rest of it later. That's going to happen when we get into a little more of our long form format. Say that fast 3 times. Shelly sells seashells by the seashore. Oh yeah, my goodness, that's easy. So anyhow, I want to wrap things up once again by saying, if you've been thinking about launching a podcast show, I'm in an office here at our office at Social Buzz TV. It's a separate office with a closed door, and I've got my mic boom And I've got my headphones, I've got my laptop, I've got my iPad recording Facebook Live, and we have created a studio at my desk. So if you think it's difficult to launch a podcast, it's not. We've got a turnkey, streamlined solution for you to be able to do that through the podcastlaunchlab.com. So check them out there. You can schedule an appointment with a podcast specialist, schedule a time to get on my calendar to answer your questions about that. So in the event you've got some questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Well, we know what that sound means. We are out of time. Hey, my name is Sebastian Rusk, and I appreciate each and every one of you tuning into the Seb Rusk Show here on Social Buzz On Air. We do this each and every week. You heard me. I said each and every week. We're chatting about social media radio. Tips, tricks, tools, ideas, awesome things like Facebook's brand new vision to bring the world closer through their incredible Facebook groups community. If you like the show, please do me a favor. Subscribe, download it, and leave a review in the iTunes store or the Google Play store. If you're watching this on Facebook Live replay, go ahead and hit share on that video so people have all the right information. You can follow us on Spreaker there. All the appropriate links are included in the show notes. Well, I'm Sebastian Rusk signing off from our studio here inside Business Miami. We'll talk to you next time. And cut. All right, good deal. Thanks for tuning in, Facebook. You guys rock. Appreciate you. I think that went well for the first live one. There's a lot going on with the Facebook or with the new platform. So you're like, I gotta, the audio clips and the intros and the starts and the stops. There's a lot going on. So I was learning the whole platform, but I think we pulled it off. If I can hear the replay of the show, did anybody listen to the show? Anybody go from this Facebook Live to do that? I'm going to include the link in here so you guys can check it out too. So hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate each and every one of you. You've been thinking about launching a podcast. The time is to do that just right now. So hit me up, send me a message. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Bye.